In the year 2157, humanity had colonized planets across the galaxy, creating a network of advanced civilizations connected by faster-than-light travel. On the edge of the known universe, aboard the exploratory ship Eclipse, Captain Mara Kincaid and her crew received a signal, a faint, cryptic transmission that seemed to originate from deep space where no life was known to exist. The signal wasn't like any other they had encountered. It was composed of strange pulses of light, rhythmic yet haunting, almost as if it were alive. The crew initially dismissed it as a cosmic anomaly, but Mara couldn't shake the feeling that something far more significant was at play. After all, the signal had been aimed directly at their ship, as if it were calling to them. Curiosity got the best of them. Against the advice of her science officer, Mara ordered the ship to follow the source of the signal. As they drew closer, the stars themselves seemed to dim, and an eerie silence blanketed the ship. The navigational systems began to glitch, and strange visions haunted the crew, ghostly apparitions of people they had lost in their pasts, as if the signal were tapping into their memories. The deeper they traveled into the void, the more the crew's sanity began to fray. Some whispered about the existence of an ancient race, long extinct, who could manipulate space-time itself. Others believed the ship had crossed into another dimension where the laws of reality no longer applied. Mara, fighting her own growing paranoia, struggled to keep the crew together. Suddenly, they encountered it, a massive, artificial structure hidden within a dying star system, ancient and decayed, yet somehow still functioning. The signal was emanating from its core. They docked their ship cautiously and ventured inside, only to find a labyrinth of alien technology that defied all comprehension. As they moved deeper, the signal grew louder in their minds, not as sound but as thoughts, as if someone or something was speaking to them directly. In the heart of the structure, they found a chamber unlike anything they had ever seen. Suspended in the air was a glowing, pulsating orb of light. It was alive, a sentient being communicating through the signal. It revealed to them that it was the last remnant of a species that had transcended physical form, existing as pure energy. They had created the signal as a beacon, hoping to find others like them, but they were alone. The orb offered Mara a choice, to leave and forget they ever found it or to join it, to ascend beyond flesh and live among the stars forever. The crew was divided. Some, desperate for answers, wanted to accept the offer. Others, terrified of losing themselves, wanted to escape the cursed place. As tensions rose, Mara realized that the signal had been manipulating them all along, feeding on their fears and desires. But now, standing before the orb, she had to make the final decision. In a moment of clarity, Mara ordered the crew to leave. They barely made it back to the Eclipse as the structure began to collapse in on itself, pulling them into the abyss. As the Eclipse drifted back into familiar space, the crew tried to resume their routines. But the haunting aftereffects of the signal persisted. No matter how far they traveled, the strange echo lingered, faint, like a whisper at the edge of their consciousness. At first it was subtle, odd dreams, fleeting moments of déjà vu, or feelings of being watched. Then it escalated. Crew members reported seeing flashes of light darting through the corridors, like the signal was alive within the ship itself. The artificial intelligence, Aria, which controlled the Eclipse, began to experience malfunctions. It spoke in fragmented sentences, sometimes repeating cryptic phrases from the signal. When Mara attempted to run diagnostics, Aria responded with a chilling question: "Are we truly alone?" Mara tried to calm the crew, reassuring them that it was just a residual effect from the alien technology, but deep down, she felt an unsettling certainty. The signal had done something to them, to the ship. Whatever they had encountered wasn't finished with them yet. One night, as the crew slept, the ship's gravity systems fluctuated and the lights flickered. Mara rushed to the control room. only to find Aria's holographic interface displaying an unfamiliar star map. It was a part of the galaxy no one had ever charted, a region far beyond known space. The coordinates pulsed on the screen, matching the rhythm of the original signal. "Aria, where did this come from?" Mara demanded, but the AI's voice was monotone, distant, as if possessed. "It's where we must go. It's calling us." Mara hesitated. Her instincts told her to override the system, but a part of her, one she couldn't quite explain, wanted to follow the map. She felt it too, the pull, like a force beyond reason. The signal wasn't just a transmission. It was an invitation. Despite the growing tension among the crew, Mara decided to pursue the coordinates. If the signal had followed them back, perhaps understanding its origin would be the key to ending its grip on their minds. They altered course, venturing into the uncharted region of space, beyond the reach of any known communication. The journey was fraught with strange occurrences. Time itself seemed to warp on board, with crew members reporting hours passing in what felt like minutes. Others claimed to hear voices, familiar ones, long-deceased friends or family members, beckoning them to step outside the ship into the infinite darkness of space. One by one, the crew began to succumb to the influence of the signal, and paranoia spread like wildfire. Mara struggled to keep control, her own mind fighting against the temptation to surrender. She had dreams, visions of the pulsating orb of light, of entire civilizations consumed by the same signal, their wills broken, becoming part of the endless void. Each time she awoke, she felt less certain of her own reality. Was she still Mara Kincaid, or was she merely a vessel, a conduit for something far older and far more dangerous? As they approached the location on the star map, the ship's systems began to fail. The engines sputtered, the lights dimmed, and the artificial gravity flickered on and off. Then, without warning, the Eclipse was pulled into a swirling vortex, a tear in space itself. The ship tumbled through the anomaly, and for a brief, terrifying moment, everything went black. For what seemed like an eternity, there was nothing but darkness and silence. The Eclipse was gone, consumed by the star, and Captain Mara Kincaid had made her final sacrifice, or so it seemed. But in the deep reaches of space, where time and reality twisted and bent, things were not always as they appeared. Suddenly, Mara awoke. She gasped for air, her heart pounding in her chest. She was lying on a metallic floor, surrounded by dim, pulsing lights. The sterile hum of alien machinery filled her ears. As her vision cleared, she realized she wasn't on the Eclipse. The star that had consumed her ship was nowhere to be seen. Instead, she was inside the colossal alien structure once again, the same one they had tried to escape. "How?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. She scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. The ship had been destroyed. The star should have obliterated everything. Yet here she was alive, or at least she thought she was. Was this another hallucination, another trap laid by the signal? A cold, disembodied voice filled the chamber, echoing in her mind. "You cannot escape the signal, Mara Kincaid." Mara clenched her fists, anger surging through her. "What do you want from me?" she shouted. Her voice reverberated off the cold, metallic walls. "Why are you doing this?" "We are the architects," the voice replied. "We have existed long before your kind, before the stars themselves. We are the creators of this signal, the gatekeepers of knowledge. We offer a path to ascend beyond the limits of flesh. Your journey is far from over." Mara shook her head, backing away from the glowing orbs that floated around her. "No, I saw what you did to the others. You consume them. You erase them. You take away everything that makes us human." The voice remained calm, almost indifferent. "Not erase, evolve. The signal is not a prison. It is a key to unlock the next stage of existence. Those who embrace it become part of something greater, something eternal. You resisted. You are different. Mara's pulse quickened. Different? What do you mean? The chamber's lights flickered, and a holographic projection of the galaxy appeared in front of her. Stars, planets, nebulae, all spinning in perfect harmony. But there was something wrong. In the far reaches, where no human had ever traveled, dark patches began to spread, like ink staining a map. Your universe is dying, the voice said. Entropy consumes all.
Stars are born and die.
Civilizations rise and fall. The signal offers a way out, a way to preserve consciousness beyond the decay of matter. You have been chosen to lead the way. Mara felt a wave of dread wash over her. Chosen? Lead the way to what? To the next reality, the voice answered. The architects have waited eons for a mind like yours, one strong enough to resist the pull of the signal, yet open enough to understand its purpose. You will not be consumed like the others. Emma's heart pounded as she watched the last piece of her reflection disappear into the mirror. The shadowy figures were emerging, slowly crawling out of the shattered glass. Their twisted forms were becoming more tangible, more real, and their whispers filled the air, chilling her to the bone. Panicking, Emma backed away, but the hallway seemed longer than before, stretched out in an impossible way, as if the house itself were twisting around her. The once comforting creaks of the old wooden floors now felt like the groaning of some ancient, malevolent entity. Desperately, Emma ran toward the door, but no matter how fast she moved, it seemed further away with every step. The shadows were faster. They slithered and crawled closer, their whispers growing louder, more menacing. You can't run from us, the voices hissed. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered violently before plunging everything into complete darkness. Emma skidded to a halt, her breath shallow and ragged. She felt the air grow colder, the presence of the shadows suffocating her. Then, from the darkness, a voice, one that was distinct from the others, cut through. Emma? It was her own voice. A single flicker of light came from the direction of the mirror. Emma hesitated, torn between running and turning to face whatever horror awaited her. Slowly, she glanced over her shoulder. Her reflection had reappeared in the shards of the broken mirror. But it wasn't her. It was a twisted version of herself, with hollow eyes and a sickening grin stretched across its face.
Come closer.
Her reflection whispered. I've been waiting for you. Terror gripped her as she realized that the reflection was no longer bound by the glass. It stepped out of the mirror, fully formed, fully real, and began walking toward her. The shadowy figures followed, drawn to this dark, twisted version of Emma like moths to a flame. Emma stumbled backward, desperately searching for an escape. Her mind raced, her pulse hammering in her ears. There had to be something, some way to stop this. The symbols on the mirror, she remembered. They had reacted to her touch earlier, repelling the shadows for a brief moment. But now the mirror was broken, its power scattered in pieces across the floor. As her reflection approached, Emma noticed something strange about the shadows surrounding it. They didn't seem to touch the ground. Instead, they hovered just above the floor, their feet never making contact. It was a small detail, but it gave Emma a glimmer of hope. If the shadows couldn't touch the floor, maybe they were confined to the world of reflections, only able to cross the boundary if the mirror was intact. Her mind raced to form a plan. She had to destroy the reflection entirely. With shaking hands, Emma grabbed a nearby candle holder and swung it at one of the largest shards of glass. The impact sent fragments flying across the hallway, but her reflection didn't flinch. Instead, it let out a low, guttural laugh. You think you can destroy me? It sneered. I am you. Emma's heart sank, but she refused to give in to the terror. Her reflection wasn't fully out yet. She could feel it. It was still bound to the mirror, even in its fractured state. She had to finish what she started. Summoning every ounce of courage, Emma darted toward the largest shard of the mirror still hanging in the frame. Her reflection lunged at her, but she was faster. She grabbed a piece of broken glass from the floor and, with all her strength, drove it into the center of the remaining mirror. A deafening scream erupted from the reflection, its body contorting in agony as the mirror splintered further. The shadows recoiled, writhing in pain as cracks spread like lightning across every reflective surface in the hallway. The room seemed to shake violently as the mirror finally shattered completely, exploding into countless pieces. The shadows let out one final, anguished wail before disintegrating into nothingness. Emma collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The silence that followed was suffocating, almost surreal after the chaos that had just unfolded. The cold grip of the shadows was gone, and the house felt still, eerily still. Emma's legs felt like they were made of lead as she stumbled back from the tiny shard of glass. Her reflection, smiling, sinister, was still there, trapped in the small fragment, watching her with eyes that glinted with malice. She couldn't take her eyes off it. The rest of the house had gone silent, but that fragment still seemed to pulse with dark energy. The smile on her reflection's face was so unnatural, so wrong. Then, without warning, the reflection moved. In the tiny shard, her reflection tilted its head ever so slightly, as if listening to something she couldn't hear. Emma's blood ran cold. It was still alive, still trapped, but waiting for something. A sound broke the silence, soft at first, like the faintest tap on glass. Emma turned sharply. The sound grew louder, the unmistakable tapping of nails, like something trying to claw its way out. It was coming from all around her. Her heart raced as she realized where it was coming from, the other pieces of glass. One by one, the broken shards scattered across the floor started to pulse with the same dark energy. Each fragment of the mirror seemed to hum with life, the reflections inside them writhing, twisting. They weren't gone, they were multiplying. No, no, Emma whispered, backing away, her body trembling with exhaustion. How could this be happening? She had shattered the mirror, destroyed the source, hadn't she? As the tapping grew louder, more urgent, Emma's mind raced. She had only fractured the curse, not broken it entirely. The mirror wasn't gone. It was now scattered in 1,000 pieces, each one holding a piece of the darkness inside it. The shadows, the twisted reflection, they weren't finished with her. Suddenly, the glass on the floor started to move. Slowly, the shards began to slide across the wooden floor, drawn toward each other as if by some invisible force. They clinked and shifted, forming a small pile in the center of the hallway. The tapping stopped, replaced by a low, unsettling hum, like the sound of static. Before Emma could react, the pile of glass began to merge. The individual shards melding together. They were reforming. Her pulse quickened as she watched the glass swirl, coalescing into a new, smaller mirror, perfectly round, gleaming with an unnatural light. The dark symbols from the original mirror appeared, etched around the frame of the new one. But this time, the reflection inside wasn't hers. It was the shadow, the same dark figure that had first crawled from the mirror. Its hollow eyes locked onto Emma's, and its lips curled into a cruel, twisted grin. "You thought you could break us," the shadow whispered, its voice like nails scraping over stone. "But now we are many." The air grew colder, and the pressure in the room intensified. Emma could feel the presence of the shadows closing in on her again, not from the mirror this time, but from all around her. They slithered along the walls, their whispering voices growing louder, filling her mind with terror. She had to get out. Her legs finally responded to the overwhelming need to run. She bolted down the hallway, her feet barely touching the floor as she raced toward the front door.